And we are live. Welcome back to another episode of Hail Yes, a Michigan football and basketball podcast by the Detroit Free Press. I am Andrew Burkle, of course, joined by our Michigan beat writer, Tony Garcia. And Tony, it is mission accomplished for Michigan basketball. The Wolverines survived an absolute rock fight with UConn on Monday, where they frankly looked like the better team for much of the night, as a lot of us expected. But even with the limping Yaxel Lendeborg, Michigan got over the finish line. Its first national title since 1989 and the Big Ten's first since MSU in 2000. I don't want to undercut our entire podcast here, but what else is there to say but what a season, right?
Yeah, that was a fitting end. Not always in every sport do you feel like the best team wins. Like oftentimes it's the hot team or the team that avoids injury or what have you. The best team in the country won this year from pretty much from start to finish. Duke and Arizona seemed to be at that level for much of the year. Duke obviously beat Michigan in the regular season. Michigan hammered Arizona in the Final Four to set up that national championship matchup with UConn. But I mean, I just can't help think about what we were talking about so frequently this year. It's like Michigan at their best is better than anyone else at their best. And that was sort of the talking point. But what we showed is Michigan near its worst is still good enough to find a way on the biggest night of the year to win the national championship. It was their worst shooting night of the entire season. They go 2 of 15 from three. They were 1 for 14 in the first 38 minutes of the game until the game defining play and stretch. It's a loose ball. UConn gets a run out. Terrace Reed has it under the basket, dishes to slash and guard. McKinney sort of alters the shot at the rim. Roddy Gale boxes out, rebound. They're running back the other way. Ball gets back to Gale on the left corner. He drives to the middle of the court, slashes, cuts, and throws a kick out to Trey McKinney on the right wing. Pump, dribble to the left, dagger, ball game, and they go up 9. And that was like the prettiest play of the whole game. I mean, this was a rock fight. This was not an art form or a masterpiece, but in some ways, that's what made it more beautiful, right? It's that Michigan was just on a night where they just didn't have it. And you can understand why. I mean, Yaxel was playing at 50%-ish, and UConn is led by one of the 3 best coaches in America somewhere in that range. It'd be hard to argue that he's not the best coach in the country, right? And obviously, everyone's going to be right now singing Dusty May's praises as they should. But Danny Hurley, this is his 3rd national title game in 4 years, so he knows what he's doing. And so Michigan was up against it. They were banged up, and they found a way, which was just really incredible. Elliot Cadeau, most outstanding player. When they say guards win in March, Elliot showed up in the final weekend for sure. The front court doing what they've done all year. Morris Johnson Jr. with a double-double. Adai Mara kind of stuffing Terrace Reed in the locker, really. I mean, he needed 12 shots to score 13 points. He was averaging 22 and 11 coming into the game, 22 and 12, something like that. So
his size really bothered him. Even, he had that little hook shot that he was so reliable with for the first 5 or so games, and Mara's height and arms just sticking straight up in the air. He just couldn't get the right angle on it. I don't know what angle you had from in the arena there, but from TV, we had this kind of flat angle, and you could really see just how impactful Mara's arms were on Reed, and just the whole game really. But what did you think about Elliot Cadeau, most outstanding player? Do you think that was deserving? Do you think that was the right call?
Yeah, I mean, I think, gosh, I mean, it's all running together, like the games in the season. I think nobody else on Michigan was really great in the title game. Cadeau was probably the best. I mean, he had 7 early points, got Michigan out to a bit of a lead. When he picked up his second foul, coincided with when, am I thinking of the national title game or am I thinking of Arizona? I guess he did it in Arizona too. He had a fast start, and then he got a couple quick fouls, and then they sort of made a run back. Or actually, that was when Yaxel got hurt. I'm sorry, little sleep. It's all blending together. But I mean, he was efficient. He scored 19 points. He did finally hit a 3 for Michigan when they were starting to separate early in that second half.
That was a big moment.
He was, swatting balls away from Terrace Reed underneath the bucket, forcing turnovers, he facilitating the offense, the brain hub. I mean, I had no problem with it. I don't think anyone was consistently better, right? You just kind of feel like it should have gone to Yaxel just for his impact. And he was really great against Arizona. But he scored 13. He was only 4 of 13 in the game. He was 0 for 5 from 3 in the championship. So, I don't have any issue with Cadeau winning it. Did you?
I mean, I thought there may have been a case for Mara just because of how dominant he was in the Arizona game. He wasn't as good in the UConn game, and I think obviously the title game was a lot closer. And Cadeau, as he did all year, he hit timely shots, right? Like you mentioned the 3-pointer. You could feel like a sense of relief, not just for the fans in the arena, but also the guys on the floor. It was like, oh, thank God one went through the hoop, right? And those shots matter. And Cadeau did that all year.
Yeah, he did. And Trey McKinney did as well, frankly. And so for him to do it from the right wing, I mean...
The shot that was maybe the only one that provided more relief than the Cadeau one was McKinney's late in the game, you know?
Yeah. No, for sure. And I mean, if you had read the box score to someone other than the final stats and you had said that Michigan was going to be 2 of 15 from 3, they were going to shoot 38%, they were going to get out-rebounded by 7, they would have 2 points in transition, and the game would be limited to 65 possessions, I think everyone would have been extremely nervous. You would have been like, wow, that's playing exactly into UConn's hand. And other than the final kind of stretch, that little minute where like you start holding your breath, right? You're up 7 and then UConn glasses into 3. Then there's a turnover on the inbound. It's like, oh my man, like is UConn going to make one more push? Other than that 30-second span, Michigan was pretty much in control of this the whole second half. It was somewhere between 7 and 11 much of the way. They never ran away with it. UConn was too tough for that, but to overcome that is it's like I said earlier. It's just such a statement about who you are when you can win with everything on the line on a terrible night. And I want to shout out the free throws. 25 of 28, 89%. And that's with Roddy Gale Jr. missing 2 in the final minute. Before that, and then McKinney hit 2 before. So they were 21 of 22. They were like 96% from the line for the first 39 minutes of this game. And then they went 2 for 4 down the stretch, so I guess they were 23 of 24 at one point. I mean, just that's impossible. Like that, like that's for your worst shooting right? night. That's that for your worst shooting night of the year. That was your best free throw shooting night of the year. And they needed it. And especially they didn't have a point that didn't come from down low or the free throw line for the first 27 minutes of this game. Every single thing was in the paint or at the line. And so you had to be finishing those freebies or those high percentage looks, and they were doing it just enough. So, just really an unbelievable season. And just the scenes afterward, it was remarkable.
Yeah, what stuck out to you from the scenes after the game as far as little moments that you will be remembering for years to come that you'll think of when this game comes up?
There's so many of them. Adai Mara, crying with his parents who have finally got to see him play in a big game after coming over. He's draped in the Spanish flag. I think the first Spanish-born player to win an NCAA national championship is what I heard. And then it was his birthday, 15 minutes later. And so they all sang happy birthday to him on the court. You had One Shining Moment playing. You had Mr. Brightside playing. You had We Are the Champions playing, right? Just all the classic hits. And Yaxel, my conversation with Yaxel and Trey on the court right after they cut down the net, and each one of them is crediting the other one. Yaxel talking about the shot, Trey talking about Yaxel gutting through what was a pretty significant injury. And certainly, he wouldn't have played if it wasn't this level, right? He would have been out. And then Dusty, what he said afterwards, the first 2 things he said were, one, how sad he was that this team wasn't going to be together anymore, which is true. But I think I would probably just be so happy in the moment. I don't know. I've never won a national championship, so I'm not sure. But it really speaks to the bond this team had that was his first thought. And then his second thought was 366 days until we try to do this again in Detroit next year. Just maniacal stuff. This guy is laser focused 24/7. And they were all going to celebrate and they did, and they have, but just, Will Cheddar on the court, him and Amari Burnett sharing a hug, after everything they'd gone through. Every single player had a story. Elliot Cadeau went on live and had some choice words on social media. He's I'll censor it, but he's they tried to tell me I was booty. Essentially, what are they talking about? And so, just a lot of people to feel really good for. And then just guys like the play-by-play voice, Brian Bush. I know what this meant to him. Watching him talk to everyone and celebrate it. It is not easy to broadcast a team that's 8-24 with a lot going on behind the scenes, and to try to keep storylines and stay upbeat, especially when you work for the hometown broadcast. So they don't have to do what we do and just stay neutral. Like, that is a pro Michigan slant. And so he got to enjoy it. Terry Mills, his color commentator, he said like welcome to the club, I think, was on their final call because he won a 1989 national championship, and just on and on. So many people who were just elated and really deserve it after a remarkable year from start to finish. The best I've ever seen up close. I mean, you certainly for basketball, you could put the 15-0 football team in there, of course, a couple of years ago, but there was just so much turmoil and tumult that season. And the vibes coming out of it are very different. I think you wanted to touch on that, which I wholeheartedly agree with.
Yeah, that's a good like sports talk radio segment we can do in the summer. Maybe is like, who was the more impressive team, Michigan basketball or Michigan football in the title winning season? That's a good like talker we can maybe circle back to, because we could probably spend a whole episode on that. But you mentioned just like kind of the craziness and just like the locked in laser focus already turning to next year. I mean, I don't know where I saw it. It was just one of those social media things. Some assistants in the locker room were already opening up a laptop and looking in to see some of the names that had entered the transfer portal, because it was after midnight on the day after the NCAA championship game. I thought that was a good example of just like how focused they are on turning the, next assignment. But to me, that was an example of just how much more momentum this tournament, this win provides for this program, and how well set up Michigan looks to be going forward. Whereas football is such a strong contrast. There are some parallels where it's like immediately after, there was rumors about Dusty with the NBA, and then, it was NBA calling. That was a whole story this weekend. And Harbaugh was obviously the NFL was constantly dominating that conversation, but it's just such a different vibe. And I feel like this basketball program, I'm not going to say it like it's falling into their lap, but like guys are going to want to search out them now, right? Like they're not going to have to do the old fashioned, like sitting on someone's couch and recruiting at their family's house for hours and hours as much now, because it's like, oh yeah, you're one of the top forwards or top big men in the portal. Oh, you're Elliot Cadeau. It's just the guys are selling themselves much like Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden did last year, right? And now 2 years in a row. I just feel like this program is so well set up going into the future, and they have the money to make it happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. You said it. Like, guys are seeking out this program. Like, clearly they have the resources. Clearly they have the staff who knows what they're looking for, who knows how to maximize. I mean, in the middle of the Final Four, they're getting commitments from 5-star Brandon McCoy, right? And now they have a top 3 class in the nation. And I mean, just look at what they did. I mean, what they did this last year in the portal will go down as an all-time portal class. And it's not to say that Michigan was exclusively built through the portal. Yes, they had 4 returning players, and they had a 5-star freshman coming in. But I think I saw a story a post from Evan Mia that Michigan had like 64 or 66% of its minutes come from transfer portal players this year. So, I mean, it was a really big part of it. 4 of the 5 starters, obviously. But to come together that quickly, have that cohesion. And I mean, I was talking with coaches after. I mean, Kyle Church said it. Mike Boynton said it. Dusty May said it. The most unselfish group any of them have ever been around. And the way the way the veterans gave up roles to allow the others to come in, the way Yaxel, set the tone from the beginning. He just wanted to be one of the guys. He didn't want to be the superstar of this team. His teammates had to convince him, like, hey, like, you are that guy. Like, it's okay. Like, please be that guy for us. And so there's going to be a lot of turnover this year with Yaxel leaving, with Roddy leaving, with Namari leaving, with Cheddar leaving, with Kaysen not playing next year. He will be redshirting. So that is 5 of the top 9 rotational players at least. And then there's the questions about Adai Mara and Morris Johnson Jr., both of whom I've seen on NBA mock draft boards. And I guess now is probably a good time to discuss their future, right? And what we're hearing, what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, it's still wait and see. Is what I was told by someone inside the program. They told me that it will. I was speaking with them last night on Wednesday, April 8th, and there was not yet that clarity about a decision one way or the other, or really even a heavy lean. I think both Mara and Johnson are going to gather intel from their camps and find out a little bit more, because there's 3 options here. 1, you come back to college. 2, you enter the draft with an agent, and then you're done.
I'm going to stop you
return
here.
To college.
I'm sorry to stop you. They basically got rid of the agent rule, because because of NIL and everything now, you're allowed to have an agent throughout basically college. So the agent rule was changed like a year or two ago. I believe it was 2023. So I only know because I edited your podcast or you edited your article last night. But there's basically it's kind of a gray area now where like you can enter and declare you're going to come back. The system couldn't be more confusing if they tried to make it. But basically there's a line the end of May, you have to decide if you're going to put your name back in or stay in. But I believe there's a designation still to say, hey, I'm going 100% sure, like Cooper Flagg last year, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. Let me backtrack. All these guys already have agents, right? But those are college agents. But there is some level of stipulation of sticking with them or whatever, like Yaxel last year. He put his name in, which was what I was going to get to as the third option, but like essentially leaving the door open, like not hard declaring, just testing the waters. And then it's like the third week of May or so, you have to either you're in or you're out, and you have to make a decision by then. So those are the three options, and they need to gather. Mara and Johnson need to gather intel to assess which one of those three is going to be best for them.
Technically, there's a fourth option as well that some players, now Mara and Johnson are not in this case. A lot of times people will be like, hey, I'm putting my name in the draft, I'm putting my name in the transfer portal, and I could also come back. Like I think, who was it? Was it Kofi Coburn in Illinois did that a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Where he was like, hey, I'm open to transferring, I'm open to go to the NBA, and I'm open to returning. And I think, but that's not the case for Mara or Johnson. They'd be back or NBA.
Correct. Shopping their services, which is why I broadly categorize the first group, like return to college, right? Like, yeah, it will be Michigan if they return to college. But yes, no, that is also technically, that is all true. I think, and I was speaking to an NBA like talent evaluator earlier in this week, a draft analyst who told me they think pretty comfortably, and we wrote this on freep.com this morning, if you want to check it out, a little more insight. This person said that they feel that Mara is pretty safely in the top 20 at this point. They watched him very closely throughout the tournament, even more so than they're able to do in the season when you're trying to scout everything and like there's just fewer games on. And so Mara probably somewhere inside the top 20. Johnson could be a first round pick, but it's not as sure of a thing as Mara seems to be at this point. And I think the distinction is Mara just has such unique traits, gifts that are like undeniable, that's easier to see, where Morez still, he's a very skilled player and could have a really high upside, but it's just a little more raw. This was the first year he wasn't a rim runner and an energy guy off the bench. He shot 34% from three. That's really good. But as a four in the league, when you're not 7'3" like Mara is, even though he'll be a 5, you're going to have to prove that you can stretch the floor. And less than 1 3-pointer a game is not enough sample size.
Yeah, but he kind of reminds me of Isaiah Stewart, right? Where it's like, is he a 4? Is he a 5? Can he shoot a little bit of threes? Yes, enough to keep people honest, to play the 4 a little bit. I think that's kind of his future, is like, he's either the best backup, like he could be like the best backup center / power forward in the league, or maybe like a borderline starting center. I think is kind of like, if he were to enter the league and not dramatically take a huge leap, I think that's kind of the path he'd be on, right?
Well, he'd be stuck being a 5 if he can't expand his shooting.
But
I think
not necessarily a bad thing.
I think he'd be a better 4. I think he'd be a better 4 if he can just stretch it out a little bit, because he has the ability. He's obviously a very good interior defender. He has the length and the quickness and the agility the NBA is even tougher, but he was a pretty good perimeter defender as well.
Oh, he moves his feet very well. But I think but the goal in the NBA is to get as many short guys and quick guys and ball handler skill guys out there as you can, and get away with it on defense to a degree, unless you're playing like a thumping style like the Houston Rockets or the Pistons maybe. But like, that's kind of like what a lot of teams are going for. If you can get away with Morez at the 5, and he can switch 1 through 5, and we saw him this year, he switched on the guards all the time because he was playing the 4. And hey, maybe you can move him a little bit to the 4 if you're getting killed in the glass. But like, having him be able to play the 5 is an asset, not necessarily like a knock, like maybe it was a couple of years ago. There's a little bit more malleability where, hey, if we can get away with you at the 5, great. If not, we'll play you a little at the 4. There's just so much more positionless basketball but the whole conversation we're having now, I think, is why Johnson is a little bit less of a sure thing. Like, Mara is plug and play, right? And you kind of already know what he is. And I think that's why there's maybe less debate because like what is realistically, unless Mara comes out and starts splashing a ton of threes, I don't really know what else he has to prove in the college game. Johnson has a lot he could still show and evolve his game.
Exactly. And that's why. And the timeline I was given, it sounds like it might be over a week, maybe the next week or two, when Michigan will really find out, or maybe these guys will announce exactly what's going on. They're going to try to keep Michigan updated all along the way. But that leads us to what Michigan would do in the transfer portal and some names to watch. I don't know if we want to take a quick break before that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. I know people care about this because the numbers do not lie on our website. People love to see some names out there, no matter what. So stay with us. We're going to talk about some players Michigan might be looking to target across the country, and then maybe how it might be impacted by whether Johnson or Mara were to go. So stick with us. We're going to take a quick break and stay with you guys here on the live. All right, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. Let's talk names. This is a part of the transfer portal that people seem to actually kind of like. It's kind of like free agency in the NBA. It basically is, right? Hey, these are the guys that are free agents or in the transfer portal and some names that Michigan might target. So before we run through the names, let's just talk a little bit big picture strategy, right? So is Michigan going to be held up on Johnson and Mara, or based off last year when we saw they went and got Mara and Johnson, and when Yaxel came, it was a bonus, right? I kind of think that they might go more so that talent acquisition route where it's like, hey, we'll get the guys and figure them out later. But there is some positional and replacement type considerations to make, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's not going to be, Dusty and staff, they have a specific skill sets and players they like at certain spots. They want a big who can be well-rounded, right? And create off the bat. You can't always have a Danny Wolf or a Yaxel Lendeborg, that sort of thing, but they want someone who's got some size and who can pass and facilitate. And I think they've got a player who they're looking at on the list. They're malleable, right? I think this next year might be if they land some of the players they're wanting to and keep guys who they have and then bring in the freshmen who we know they're bringing in. This could be more of a guard-oriented team. Still have the size and the strength down low to really compete, but it will be more of a perimeter-oriented or a backcourt-oriented offense. And again, just to run through the players who they need to replace, Yaxel. And for now, just for the sake of argument, let's throw a Mara in that mix, anticipating that it seems to be, I'd put it at more than 50% chance that a Mara leaves the program. So a Mara, Yaxel Lendeborg, Will Cheddar, Namari Burnett, Roddy Gale, LJ Kaysen. That is 6 of the 9 rotational players from last year. So the returners would be Elliot Cadeau, Trey McKinney, Morris Johnson Jr. Now, that's a really, those are 3 really good pieces to return, right? That's a fantastic starting point, but it's all obviously also a lot that's departed. I'll start at the top of the list. I'd say the number one name to keep an eye on is Flory Badunga, the center from Kansas. He is pretty much consensus, unanimous, the number one available player in the portal. He was the defensive player of the year in the Big 12. He's 6'10", 235 pounds. Last year played 35 games, started 34, averaged 13 points, 9 boards, and 2.6 blocks a game. For perspective, Adai Mara, who it felt like blocked everything, had 2.5 blocks a game. So it's that level. He shot 64% from the floor. Mara shot 66. He had 13 double doubles, had a night with 23, 11, and 5 against Baylor. He's just a beast, right? And so, I've seen some reports that are saying he's going to garner up to $4 million this year. I don't know this to be certain, but that might be a little bit out of Michigan's price range. I think they could do it, but I don't know if they would want to do that. I think they could find a couple other permutations and ways to get a roster together, even if it doesn't include Badunga. But he's at the top of the list. And then I'll just go through one more to see if there's anything else you wanted to ask about or thoughts you had as well. The next one would be Juke Harris, the guard from Wake Forest. Michigan got an up close and personal look at him in Detroit last year. Really one of the two few games they struggled this year when they had that back-to-back. It was a 1-point overtime win over Wake Forest, then a 3-point win over TCU on the road before they went to Vegas, and the rest is history. But Harris is a bucket. He was 14th in the nation in scoring, 21.4 points per game, average 6.5 boards a game. He's 6'7", 200 pounds. So, I mean, he could play the 2, he could play the 3. I mean, it's not, he seems to be sort of like, I mean, I'm not comping their games, but like Trey McKinney, he can handle the ball, but he's not like a natural facilitator of the offense. Maybe that's an area of his game Michigan thinks they can expand, but like, I think they also want to expand his 3-point shooting or improve it. He was 33% from range last year on volume, but it's not as easy to shoot threes when you are the number one primary focal point of the offense for Wake Forest. And if you have Elliot Cadeau and Trey McKinney also on the court, everybody's not going to be able to just focus on Drew Karras, right? So I think they think the three of them together, I mean, that would be a problem. That would be a distinct problem for
that'd be a lot of
defenses.
firepower, right?
Yeah. So those are the two. There's a tier of 3 names after that we'll get to, but those are the 2 top names that everybody should keep an eye on right now.
Yeah, I wonder a little bit about Badunga because it's like you hear the $5 million price tag thrown out there. And I only know about this because, it's my job to watch both teams. That's, of course, a name that, the school up in East Lansing is also like their fans are like, oh, Badunga's in the he's in the transfer portal. Michigan State should get him to replace Cooper. And it's like, well, $5 million is out of their range. Well, it's like, okay, Michigan State have the number 2 or number 3 recruiting classes in the country for high school. They're active and supposed to be among the top teams in the country. It's like, if they're not in the market, if they're like way out on Badunga, if that's way too high for their, way too sweet for their blood, then it's like, who is in that market, right? Could it be like Kentucky, Louisville. Maybe, Louisville, Texas Tech is always spending a lot of money, but like pretty soon, there's just not a lot of teams who can pay that $5 million price tag. And you wonder, Michigan's case would probably be similar to what happened with Yaxel, right? Where it's like, hey, well, reportedly what happened where he got offered a significant amount more money at Kentucky, right? And it's like, hey, well, yes, you could go to Kentucky and make X, Y, Z. We're offering you a competitive offer that might not be quite as much, but look what we can do for your career. I think that's kind of the case that Michigan's going to be offering. And that's what keeps them in the race for some of these guys and why it's not ridiculous to throw out Badunga when they're already spending a lot of money to keep Trey McKinney. Like Trey McKinney is not going to be cheap to keep his name out of the transfer portal, right? The rest of the roster, they just signed a 5-star, one of the top remaining players in the country coming out of high school, right? So like they're already spending money elsewhere. I think what makes them in the race for some of these guys is what Dusty has shown and what the program has shown over the last few years.
Absolutely. But I mean, there are still, and then that's when it's out of your hands, right? Like, I mean, players are going to choose, either they're going to take the money up front and trust their own skill set to be able to develop and prove that they can be an elite player at the NBA, or maybe they'll take 75 or 80 cents on the dollar, come somewhere that is coming off a national championship that has a sales pitch to say, and Michigan doesn't even like to use the word sales pitch, but just sort of the proof is in the pudding and explains like, hey, this is the way we see you fitting into this mold next year. But it's not just Louisville. I think probably like a team like maybe St. John's or something. I think I might have seen their name floated around in his sweepstakes as well. But just, these are schools that built through the portal, spent a ton of money in the portal. St. John's, by its standard, they made it to the second weekend for the first time since '99. Louisville obviously lost in the second round to Michigan State, but they were without their starting point guard, so they were kind of banged up down the stretch. But a few more names that I think have not gotten as much buzz, but I was told by someone who would absolutely have knowledge of these situations, that these players are also certainly on Michigan's radar. Now, they might be more of like an option 1B, like they sort of need to wait and see what's happening with Merez and Mara, and then what's happening with Badunga and Harris. But these are types of players and specific players that Michigan is interested in as well. JP Estrella, the forward from Tennessee, like Harris,
I like
Michigan
his game.
got to see him.
I like his game a lot. He's a good player.
I do too. Michigan got to see him, a couple weeks ago, right? In the Elite Eight when Michigan stomped Tennessee 95-62 to go to the Final Four. He's 6'11", 240. He averaged 10 points and 5.4 rebounds in 18 minutes a game. That's super efficiency. Make him a 27-minute player and just expand those numbers like same rate.
It's the Mara case.
That's not always how it works.
That's what Mara did, right? He couldn't get in shape and Michigan got him in shape. Next thing you know, it's like, whoa, first rounder.
Yeah, and it was even more than that for Mara, right? Because he only played 13 minutes and 18 is notably more. But yes, the same principle applies. He could be a 15-7 guy. He shot almost 60% from the floor, and he's pretty experienced, right? So he is a sophomore in eligibility, like he would be a junior next year. He's played 2 years, but he's been in college 3 years. He suffered an injury like 3 games into the 24-25 season and missed essentially all of not this past year, but the year before that. He's been around the college game for some time. He came in as like the number 61 player in the country. So he's always been pretty highly regarded. And I think what Michigan might like about him most is his offensive rebounding rate. Last year, 17.3%. was number 8 in the nation. So this is a guy who can go and get it on the glass on the offensive side. And Michigan loves its offensive rebounds. They told us all year they consider those essentially defensive stops, and the kick out threes, the in and out threes. For Steppins, for McKinney, for Cadeau, whoever it might be next year, those are the highest percentage looks that Michigan can get from 3, and they want someone who can create those. Another name, Bryson Tiller, the forward from Kansas, who just finished his freshman year in Lawrence. And for a freshman, I mean, he averaged 8 and 6 a game and played 26 minutes a night. That's pretty good for a first year guy. I was told specifically that Michigan has interest in him. And according to Jeff Goodman of the Field of 68, the feeling is mutual. Tiller's top 4 schools of interest are Michigan, Arizona, Miami, and Missouri, according to Goodman. But he was a top 50 prospect last year, coming into college last year, number 9 power forward in the nation. He's from Atlanta, played at Overtime Elite, and now he's rated also, that was from 24/7 Sports composite rankings. 24/7 Sports also has him rated as the 31st available player in the portal this season. Thoughts on either Estrella or Tiller before we get to number 5?
I think I like Estrella a little bit better, but I think Tiller maybe slides in a little bit more if you have Johnson or Mara come back. I think it's maybe a slightly easier fit as far as just, I don't know. I could see that being more of the range they're going to target if Johnson and or Mara comes back. Versus Estrella, I think is going to be looking to expand that role, right? He may be a harder sell if he's trying to find somewhere where he can get more than those 18 minutes. You know, it's if you're coming into a front court with Johnson and Mara, it's like, okay, well, pretty soon it's just kind of the similar situation. So I don't know. That's kind of something I thought of.
And I mean, I think so. If Badunga comes, then that really changes a lot for some of these second players, right? Because let's say Moraes comes back and Badunga comes back. I mean, Michigan does still need front court depth. So they'll have Quinn Costello, who's McDonald's All-American, true freshman coming in, but
he's more of a wing power forward, right? Like, he's not like a bruiser, Big Ten bruiser.
No, very much not. He's a quintessential pick and pop 4. He's a stretch 4.
He's smooth though. I watched him for a few minutes in the McDonald's All-American game. He fits right in, and I think he's probably get minutes right away.
Yeah. But there's also Oscar Goodman, who he told me that he's planning on coming back. And so as long as that holds, I think Goodman will work his way into the rotation as well. I don't think it'll be much more than Will Cheddar minutes last year, maybe like 12, 13, 14 a game. But I mean, I could see him factoring in. So it's just about how Michigan is pitching these guys and how they're seeing, all right, like just sort of a minutes allocation. And again, they're not going to give any assurances, but they're going to say like, if you work hard, if you progress and get to the place where we think you can be, like, we're thinking that you're this type of rotational player, like you're a first man off the bench. Maybe you could be a starter. Like, they're not going to promise anyone anything, but they're going to be there. It's a super transparent staff. And so I think whoever signs, whoever does end up transferring to Michigan, because it will be someone, they'll know what they're getting themselves into. And all right, the last guy is,
this is a fun one.
I'm gonna butcher it because it's a classic Greek name, Neoklis Avdalis. I think I got it. The guard from Virginia Tech. I've seen some places try to list him as a forward. I mean, he averaged like 4 assists a game, and he's 6'9", so he kind of played on a wing.
Up, yeah,
this is that he takes the ball up exactly. This is kind of that Yaxel guy who I was referring to earlier. And I'm not saying he's Yaxel Lendeborg, right? So let's not clip that and say that's what was said. But what I mean is a player who can rebound. And let's just go through his numbers real quick. So he averaged 12.1 points, 4.6 assists, and 3 boards a game. So he's not the rebounder Yaxel was. But he is, he's tall, he's 6'9", so he's got the length and the size you want at the 3. He can create a little bit and not just have to be in the backcourt, right? Like, Michigan wants guys who can facilitate from all over the court. I mean, look at Yaxel, look at Adai last year, right? And so he brings that to it as well. We also know Dusty loves him some Europeans, right? I mean, just in his short tenure here, he's brought in Vlad Golden. He's brought in Adai Mara. He's brought in Malik Cordell. He signed Marcus Muller to this most recent class, right? So, I mean, and these are all bigs, but he loves the way the Europeans play the game. And this would be right in line with that. And plus, he played 2 seasons in Greece's like top tier HEBA, like their A1 league with AS Karditsas.
You could have skipped it. No one would give me a hard time.
Yeah. Okay. And now we're going to have to go for the other one. Peristeri BC was the other one. So he had two years playing against grown men, and he is, I think, 20 years old now. So
I just looked it up.
He's going to be
20.
a sophomore. Yeah. So he's going to be a sophomore. This is an old, experienced sophomore who he was ACC like rookie of the year or rookie of the week a couple weeks this year. He's one of like 5 players in the league who had multiple 30-point games. I mean, he can heat up. He's a bucket. So
if you want to talk about throwing out ridiculous names, do you remember what people were saying about him in November when he had that first breakout game? They were calling him. No, they were calling him Baby Luka. This Greek phenom looks and plays exactly like Luka Doncic. There's a little bit of a Luka Doncic style 6'9" point guard element to him. So if you're trying to envision like best case scenario, that's kind of what. Now over the course of the year, a lot of those comps died down. I'm looking at now, and the last time people called him Luka was in November, right? So it was kind of that first initial breakout game where everyone was like, "Holy crap! Who is this guy? What? No offense, but why is he playing for Virginia Tech?" Like that was kind of like the questions surrounding him when it first happened. But high ceiling guy.
Yeah. No, exactly. And so, and then there's other names, right? Like I was not told directly about him. So I don't know Michigan's interest or if they see the fit. I mean, I would be surprised if it was John Blackwell. The reasons are obvious, right? He's a Big Ten guy. He played at Brother Rice. He's from Michigan, from Metro Detroit. I mean, he could easily want to come home. And so, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised, but it's just, he is an off-ball guard, and Michigan already has Trey McKinney. They have Brandon McCoy. I just don't know if that's the necessary fit that they need. But I mean, skill is skill. And if someone of that talent wants to come to Michigan, we'll find a role for you.
And he's a high price tag guy too, though. That's the other similar to the Kansas fit. Badunga. How do I always forget how to say his name.
Flory Badunga.
Badunga. Similar to Badunga, where it's like, that's going to be your big market. That's your big splash. If that, Blackwell is going to command a lot of money. And I just think that because of Michigan's team, like you said, like you already have McKinney, who's going to fill in a lot of that 2 role. They have recruits coming in who are going to compete for those minutes. I just think that Blackwell would be maybe a bit too much money for what they really need. I mean, like you said, they'll talent. If he came and said, "Hey, this is where I'm from. I want to come here." Obviously, you welcome it in. But I just think that he is going to be in that similar class where it's like Louisville, St. John's, Kentucky, the really big spenders who are trying to make their own splash. I kind of see him more so going to one of those schools.
I wouldn't rule out Illinois, but just because they spend money too.
They do spend money.
So, but predicting these things are so hard until I have for other places in the country, right? Like, I mean, I can get a good sense of what Michigan is looking to do and trying to do, but someone going from Wisconsin somewhere else, I just don't have a great sense of that.
Yep.
I feel like the last thing from me is just a reminder about the parade on Saturday. There's a map on freep.com. You can see where it's going through the streets. It'll start at 10 a.m. They're leaving from the president's house over on South U. Fortunately, that block is still in one piece after all the celebrating on Monday night into Tuesday morning. And then the ceremony or the celebration continues at Chrysler at 1:00. I think they're opening doors at noon. That might just be for season ticket holders, and then others who can get in. So I think double check that. But I just wanted to let people know about what
I believe it's 10 and 1, right? 10 and 1.
It's 10, but doors open at 1 at noon, and then the ceremony starts at 1.
But I mean, you can't get there if you really, really, really have your heart set on getting there and getting inside. I mean, you get there early. It's going to be chaotic.
Yeah. No.
All right, man. Well, good final thoughts there. Jeez, spring football is going on. Michigan football, one of the biggest programs in the country, has a new football coach and has spring football going on, but we have barely been able to discuss it thanks to an epic season by the Wolverines basketball team. You've got your hand up, Tony, in the back.
Yes, I do. Also, Frozen 4 tonight. Michigan, Denver, out in Las Vegas. Pretty big hockey game as well. So, I mean, there's just been so much, but I think the fervor is really around hoops. So that's why we've centered on that. But in case anybody had forgotten, I'm sure you hadn't. That is tonight. I think puck drop is 8:30?
8:30-ish. It's one of those situations, they're playing them in the same building. So, we don't really know exactly when they'll drop the puck, but around 8:30 in Las Vegas. The other thing that, I was going to mention, we basically timing, you were traveling. There was no good way to talk about the Frozen 4 timing wise either. So check that out tonight. Christian Romo, one of our team members here, does great work. He's out in Las Vegas covering the team. He's got videos. He's got stuff coming through social media. He'll have live updates. He'll have game stories. So keep an eye out. We are out there, and we're going to have full reports from there as well. So check that out. Of course, stay in touch with Tony's Michigan football coverage. More stuff on that coming later of Thursday. So with that, thank you to our acting sports editor, Ryan Ford, Robin Shan, our editor of the podcast and producer who helps make this all happen. And of course, thank you to Nicole Avery Nichols, who makes everything happen here at the Free Press. With that, we'll talk to you guys sometime next week. Talk Frozen 4, maybe a little bit more hoops if there's some transfer portal news, and of course, spring football to discuss as well. So with that, we'll talk to you guys next week.